Across 81.6 million people, nearly 1.1% of the world's human population, live permanently at altitudes above 2,500 meters, or 8,200 feet, that put these populations at risk for chronic mountain sickness, or CMS. However, people living at high altitude have done so for millennia without apparent complications. This special adaptation is an instance of evolutionary modification in certain human populations, and is now recognized as an example of natural selection in action. This adaptation involves irreversible, long-term physiological responses to high-altitude environments, associated with heritable behavioral and genetic changes, specifically in the regulatory systems of oxygen respiration and blood circulation, in comparison with the general lowland population. While the rest of the human population would suffer serious health consequences, the indigenous inhabitants of these regions thrive well in the highest parts of the world. Apart from this, different populations respond physiologically to low oxygen pressure in somewhat different ways. Some people living at high altitude, on the Qinghai Plateau in China, develop a red face called plateau red face, or PRF, which is characterized by telangiectasia of the cheeks, which become a unique ruddy color. It is more common in young females than males who have polycythemia. Because of the elevation above sea level, the air is thin and dry, and there is little oxygen. As a result, the skin does not inhale enough, and so the red blood cells responsible for carrying oxygen increase. In other words, chronic high-altitude hypoxia leads to an increase in red cell numbers and hemoglobin concentration. In addition, as the temperature difference across the plateau is even more pronounced, and ultraviolet rays radiate even more intensively, redness becomes more obvious. Indians from the high mountain valleys in Peru and Bolivia have to produce more hemoglobin in their blood and increase their lung expansion capability. Both leads to an increase of oxygen carried by the blood. On the contrary, Tibetans and Nepalese who live at high altitudes generally have to breathe faster in order to take in more oxygen and to have broader arteries and capillaries, thereby allowing much higher rates of blood flow and subsequently greater amounts of oxygen delivered to their muscles, despite the fact that they have relatively normal hemoglobin levels. A current study of Tibetan villagers who live their lives at around 15,000 feet has demonstrated that they have 10 oxygen processing genes, which are not commonly found in lowland populations. The EPAS1 gene is mainly important in adapting to environments with constant low oxygen pressure. Researchers from the University of Colorado School of Medicine and the Harvard School of Global Health reported in the Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health that people living at high altitudes generally live longer and have a lower risk of dying from coronary artery disease. This positive effect occurs unless people have chronic breathing problems. According to researchers, mild hypoxia improves the way the heart functions and produces new blood vessels that increase blood flow for the heart. An alternative explanation is that living at high altitudes increase exposure to ultraviolet radiation from the sun, which increases the body's ability to produce vitamin D, having beneficial effects on the heart.